or they're going to come?
Yeah, this is online only. Most of it online. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have a stage and all that for what? What is the purpose of stage then?
There were some if the students of who are inside, they also now our campus is mostly full. All the students. So it is in a hybrid mode. That way you can say that our students can also come and see. Although it is online, they can join in YouTube. In YouTube, it is being broadcasted. Still, sometimes when students come together, there is always a kind of a camaraderie, and they can interact with each of them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Actually, that pandemic situation, that is one thing we all missed. Like, students are here and their friends are. And part of this IIT education is how you interact with each other. That was completely missing. So thank God we have now.
Okay. And what do you teach in IIT Bhubaneswar?
I am a chemistry. I teach chemistry. Chemistry. Yeah, but I also have
physical chemistry, analytical chemistry. The types are there. What chemistry?
It's organometallic chemistry, mainly
inorganic. Your audio is getting disturbed. Yeah.
Right. Hopefully, let's see.
Okay.
Another event is going on. I think it is going to be over soon. That's what a broadcast came.
Okay. Sujit, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Sir.
Yeah.
We are going to start the event in 5 minutes.
All right.
Yeah. Please start in time, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Sujit, will you be able to help with the presentation if Mr. Murli has got any problem? Because I'm not able to log in from my laptop.
No, we're already.
Sujit, I have already connected.
Shailaja, it's working with the team directly. They're able to show it properly.
Okay.
You stay back for some time. Once they settle down, you can leave.
Yeah, sure.
See, problem is all of us, Sujit, are very comfortable with Zoom. This,
Yeah.
It's very, very natural, intuitive control.
Right.
Teams are not like that. Very difficult to learn, understand. Though we use a lot of team, but I'm not comfortable.
Right. Yeah,
Zoom has captured the market. I'm sure you're using a lot of Zoom for your family meetings and all that.
No, actually, government of India has put a little bit of ban.
Yeah.
On Zoom. That's why our classes, etc., we used Teams.
Okay.
We were using Zoom also for personal, etc. We use Zoom, but for official purpose, we are not supposed to being a central government institute.
Now, chemistry is a subject all of them get to learn in the first year in the BTech campus undergrad program.
Yes. Yeah.
Only for 1 year. First year only.
Right, but we have also MSc, and
MSc.
we
in chemistry.
MSc also. MSc is there and PhD is there. And also we teach them many this interdisciplinary courses. For example, I had taught material science to these mechanical students in second year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have actually a lot of interest in materials also. What is your expertise, Mr. Muralidharan?
I passed out of chemical engineering from IIT Madras.
Oh, chemical. I see. Okay.
But of course, I can't claim any expertise. I'm out of that. I am into more of human chemistry.
So, that is really required.
I'm in psychology. I'm in the area of human resource, human capital management. That's what I do.
Okay. Nice to know that.
Shailaja, you're there?
She is muted.
Yeah, Shailaja, you're muted.
Entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. A very warm good evening to everybody present here, and a hearty welcome to our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri T. Muralidharan Sir, Chairman FICCI Telangana and Founder Chairman of TMI Group. Professor Sujit Roy, Dean Research and Development, Dr. Srinivas Bhaskar Karanki, President Students Gymkhana, Dr. Madhushmita Das, Chairperson E-Summit, Dr. Raja Kumar Guduru, Vice Chairperson E-Summit, and Shivasai Abhinav, Chief Coordinator E-Summit. I am Meghna, a core team member of E-Summit IIT Bhubaneswar. It is my immense pleasure to host this evening. Now, I request Dr. Raja Kumar Guduru, Vice Chairperson of E-Summit, to introduce today's Chief Guest, Shri Muralidharan Sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is my pleasure to introduce today's chief guest, Shri Muralidharan. Shri Muralidharan obtained his BTech from IIT Madras in 1979 and a postgraduate degree from IIM Ahmedabad in 1981. He also has a Bachelor of Law from Osmania University in 2021. Shri Muralidharan is also addressed as TMD by his friends. A first-generation serial entrepreneur, is a chairman of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Telangana State Council, and also the member of National Executive Board of FICCI. He is also a former member of the National Board of MSME, constituted by the Ministry of MSME. Recently, he was nominated as a member of the Expert Committee of Group of Ministers of Government of India. In addition, he is an advisor to the Governor of Rajasthan on MSME and employment since April 2020. Shri Muralidharan is the founder and chairman of the 3-decade-old TMI Group. With 3,000 plus employees and pan-India presence, TMI Group is a talent management and innovative workforce solutions group dedicated to the success of Indian professionals' talent worldwide. TMI Group is a pioneer and one of India's big 5 in talent acquisition, talent development, and learning sciences. Performance consulting, HR analytics, and robotic process automation are the recent additions to the TMI Group offerings. Shri Muralidharan has built TMI Group into one of India's leading leaders in its domain with customers in IT, BFSI, manufacturing and service sectors. TMI has global customers in Japan, Germany, Middle East, Africa, Singapore, and Central Asia. TMI Group has placed over 100,000 managers and skilled over 200,000 executives in the Indian corporate sector over the last 30 years. Shri Muralidharan is a recipient of Small Scale Entrepreneur of the Year Award 2012, Hyderabad Management Association, Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIMA Alumni Association, Hyderabad in 2014. He is the author of 2 bestseller books. First career guidance bestseller book titled An Expert's Guide to Your Right First Job. Second career guidance book titled An Expert's Guide to Top 101 Entry-Level Job for Graduates and MBAs. Shri Muralidharan is a career counselor for school children and college students, mentor for startup entrepreneurs, and former advisory board member of AP Government Accelerator Program for Startups. Sir, we are indeed pleased to have you among us this evening. May I request you to deliver your talk to the August gathering. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. I can see myself in the audience maybe 20, 30 years ago. IIT Madras, when I joined in 73, 74, I think it was a different world altogether. And I think we all joined a generation of people like Dr. Roy. We were a different generation where going to a college meant learning something which is very, very close to curriculum. So we were all very focused on curriculum. Our target was to maximize our scores and then look for an opportunity to go to US. And that was a plan for most of us when we went to IITs. A lot of things have changed in the process. Today, I think the world has changed. India has become a good destination for IIT engineers. I was told that recently in IIT Bombay that more than 90% of the students prefer to stay in India and do startups than to go abroad. So the world has changed upside down. These are very good times. And I can only say that I wish I was born much later at your time to see the excitement of what's happening in India and around the world. We have one challenge. I must say that my laptop is saying that my laptop is a Mac laptop. It doesn't like Microsoft. So it says closing Microsoft Teams will cool down my Mac down. I don't know what that means. So I think there is a problem. So in case something happens, I get discontinued, I'll come from my telephone, my iPhone. So please don't worry. In case I get shut down, I will be joining you from a phone. All right. So let's start off by sharing my thoughts on my entire life in 6 short stories. And these are all based on, some of them I've borrowed from what we call life lessons through pictures. That's what I'm going to do. And can you go to the next slide, please? Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. Now this screen tells you about a summary of who we are. I think we were introduced, when being introduced, we talked about a few countries, but we work in 16 countries. We are World Bank partner. We are the Government of India partner. We work with the PMO. We work with many, many governmental organizations and ministries, etc. in India on learning science. We have 3 group companies. The leader is a talent management company, that is TMI. The second company, which is basically in learning science, which is what I talked about, where we work with Government of India and World Bank. And the third company is largely in the area of skilling. It's called TMI E2E. I'm going to start with my storytelling. You will realize how each of these companies were started, because I think you are more interested in my entrepreneurial journey, and maybe there'll be some takeaways for you. Our operations in India are very large. We are in 470 cities now. We hire people, we train people. There are large number of partners. We don't work alone. We work with 780 plus partners. We with 51 government and CSR customers, including Microsoft is our customer in CSR. 6,500 e-learning hours. E-learning, as you all know, is a self-learning model. It's a discovery-based model. But most importantly, the number of employees have gone up now. I think from next month, we'll be somewhere around 6,000 employees. And most interesting is I have been involved with the youth of India from the year 1991. So last 31 years, we have placed more than 500,000 people or skilled 500,000 people in India. And we work extensively with very, very small towns, people from Deoria in UP to parts of Bihar. We have done a lot of work in Patna government for some time and so on. So my presence today is also to share with you, especially I have a lot of affection for the youth of India. I believe India's future is with them. Everybody says that, but I mean it. If we don't succeed in finding a meaningful future for our youth, I don't think the country will have the prosperity that we are planning. The demographic dividend is very much on the balance right now. If we do things right, we can extract the dividend or we might be in trouble. Next slide, please. So all I want to establish is that we are very, very established in India, many countries. We work on talent management extensively. And we also are very, very powerful clients, especially in learning science. Next slide, please. Let me start with my first story, how this is the Godfather 2. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie called Godfather. Godfather came in trilogy. 3 movies were made, Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. Godfather 2 and Godfather 3. In 1973, The Godfather 2 was released and it got an Oscar. But the interesting part about the movie is talks about the evolution of the Godfather himself, born in Sicily, how he lands up in New York, and how he became a Godfather. For me, it was also a time of evolution. I was just in pre-university and I suddenly grew up from being a child or a childhood to adulthood. And that's mainly because I joined IIT in 1974. My joining to IIT Madras was a complete random event. It was a gift, and I'll tell you why. My parents were not able to afford to send me to coaching classes like many of you do. So we had to learn on our own. I studied in a government school, and I was fortunate enough to meet a neighbor who was an MSc in mathematics. And she said, I should not give up my dream of joining IIT, and she will coach me in maths. She taught me maths for 2 months. And when I wrote the IIT exam, it was a disaster. I couldn't understand many of the questions, but I did my best. And I was convinced there's no way I'm getting into IIT. On the day the results were announced, I did not buy a copy of the newspaper. I told my parents, don't look at it, I'm not going to get it. That day evening, around 4:30, I lived in Chennai at that time. We had gone to the Marina Beach, which is about 7-8 kilometers from my house. On the way to the beach, I saw somebody reading the newspaper, and the results were published in the newspaper on that day. So I went and requested him, can I look at the paper, sir? At evening 5 o'clock, and I saw my number. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a complete random event. I went home to my mother, and I was so excited. I would say if there is one event which is a turning point of evolution of me to where I am, IIT plays a big role. And I'm sure it must be going to each of you there in the room. IIT also did many things to me. First, it taught me survival. Because in the first semester, I came from a very ordinary background. There were also superstars in our batch. In those days, as you know, IIT Madras was the top 4 institution. And chemical engineering, it was rated 3rd or 4th. So the large number of students were there in our batch who were toppers. So in the first semester, I did very badly. I almost got kicked out. And that's the time I realized that I need to take myself very seriously. And I need to learn how to compete in a system which is really designed for meritocracy. By the time I finished my IIT Madras, I was on top of the class. I was a distinction scholar. In those days, there was no relative scoring. I had an absolute score of 8 point something, which was a distinction in IIT campus. So I think many times we don't understand the purpose of education. It's not about filling a pot. but it's for lighting a lamp. And that's what IIT did. I'm eternally grateful to IIT Madras, my batchmates, my faculty in the campus, who really made a change and completely. I'm not saying I became a godfather, but I became what I am today. A lot of credit goes to my 5 years in IIT Madras. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to switch to 1987. And this is actually, Brian's song is a beautiful movie. Some of the movies I'm putting it on the screen. Some of you should watch because these are all classic Oscar-winning movies. This is a great story about two friends who meet in campus and they make commitments to each other and how they spend their life trying to figure out how they live up to their commitments. But this is the year I also learned about how to keep commitments. And I remember this is the story of how we started TMI. Not many people know that when we started TMI, myself and my partner, Mr. Lakdawala, both of us were IIM Ahmedabad, and we met in Bombay, and casually we had a conversation. And he was saying that let's start a business. And he said he was depressed because he worked for Levers, and Levers employees retired. I don't want to retire. That's what his comment was. We came to Hyderabad to check out the seed industry, which I wanted to join agriculture, which is a surprise because I know nothing about agriculture. We came to Hyderabad, everybody told us, don't join the seed industry. When we went back to Bombay, one day my friend calls me, Lakdawala, and then says, I've resigned. I said, why did you resign? He said, I thought you agreed that you're going to join me in business. I said, I don't remember saying that. But he said, I'm sorry, I heard it like that, I resigned. That was a shock to me because I was also doing very well. He was also doing very well in the company. But then a commitment has been made, and that's it. For me, at that point of time, is the first crossroad of my life. Should I say to my friend, sorry, I didn't mean it. You do whatever you want to do. You start your business or your own. Or I'm going to drop everything and go and stay with him and work with him. I made the second choice. I said, I will go to Hyderabad, where he already moved in to start a seed industry. And that's how EMI started, because of a commitment. Now, a bigger commitment was also made by me to his father. His father told me, if you join my son in business, you need to commit 1,000 days. You should not quit because my son is working with you. Things can go up and down. He was a very, very sensible micro entrepreneur. I said, I'm fine. I took a commitment at that time. And after 3 years, we decided we don't want to work in the seed industry. We were not successful. We were losing money. And we decided to meet in a restaurant to pack up our bags and go back to the corporate sector. At that time, suddenly my partner remembered, and both of us remembered, I had made a commitment to his father for 1,000 days. It was 960 days, 40 days short of 1,000 days. Then I said, yes, we will not quit now. We'll wait for 40 days. And if things don't improve, we'll quit. In 40 days, many things happened. Somebody came and started advertising business. Somebody came and started recruiting business just in 40 days. And I'm very grateful to myself for making those two choices based on commitment, because if I had gone back to a job, I would not be where I am today. So the partnerships, and this is very important for us to know, how partnerships also evolve. I had a friend whom we met in the campus, but I think we are great family friends and we have great respect for each other. So even though we had made the commitment, we stayed back in TMI. TMI in the current form was born in 1991 after 3 years of failure. And then when we started working 7 years later in 1997, both of us met together and asked a question, where do we want to go from here? Typically in partnerships, and you will also be relevant for you to know, partnerships split on 3 levels. Level 1, there's a lack of trust. If both the parties don't trust each other, the partnership will not flourish. We crossed that bridge. The second level is about contribution. All the partners should contribute equally to the outcomes and the effort that is involved. We crossed that bridge. But the third level is the toughest. Both of us should see the future in the same way. My partner said, no, I want to be in advertising. I said, I want to be in talent management. And we shook hands and gracefully exited our business. And I still am very, very proud of the fact that our partnership split was so gradual, so finely designed, so that we are still very close friends today. And you will realize that very many times partnership splits are very, very negative. And a lot of bitterness is there. I'm very, very grateful. So I think one of the learnings from that experience of 1987 startup was, please plan the exit. Please write in your partnership agreement that if case you want to split, how will the split be done? So that it is done gracefully. I believe in life there are many choices, but you should always make a choice in favor of graceful exits. Whether you're in a company or in partnership, graceful exits gives you a lot of peace of mind much, much, much later. Next slide, please. Third slide, please. I don't know how many of you have seen. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's called Apollo 13. Apollo 13 is a movie. It's an Oscar winner for many categories. But the beauty of the movie is that these three astronauts go all the way to the moon. Something happens on the way. They're not able to land on the moon. They come back. And on the way, they face all kinds of complex scenarios. And many times, the Houston control is almost close to giving up. But they don't give up. And these three people are brought back safely back to Earth alone with absolutely impossible conditions. There is a famous statement in that movie where the mission control says failure is not an option. When Tom Hanks lands up and he lands on the Earth after he comes back and he takes off and he's asked, he makes a very powerful statement. He summarized the mission as a successful failure. He says, the mission was a failure because we could not land in the moon. It was a success because we made it to the Earth despite 1 in 1,000 odds. Now, this is the beauty of life. Every life brings you successes and failure, right? How do you get up after a failure is the most important. The year 2000 for us is exactly similar. It was a super success and a super failure on the same year. The story is about this. In 2000, we went to ICICI Ventures. We had a presentation to some of the venture capitalists. They liked the idea I presented about learning. And on the spot, they gave us a term sheet. They waived due diligence and gave us the money. Our valuation for a presentation was 26 crores at that time. I'm talking about 1999. I had a term sheet on my hand on December 31st, and we celebrated because it was an outstanding achievement for a company like us. At that time, we were a very small company. The 26 crores was almost a turnover at the time. The launch happened with Chandrababu Naidu on August 15th. There were 25 CEOs came to our office to the launch plan, and it was a great success on that day. 3 days later, we went to Delhi to present for the second round of funding. The first round of funding had happened. Second round of funding had not happened. We needed the money desperately. It was about another 10 or 12 crores we were supposed to get from the second round of funding. After the presentation, we were told that they are interested, but our partner, E&Y, was supposed to negotiate the valuation. So we left thinking we are going to get the money. Meanwhile, E&Y's leader was not available. 15 days later, they walked out of the deal. The market collapsed. The dot-com bust had happened. We had no money. We were completely poverty with no income and more than 50 lakhs of expenditure. A lot of people had joined C&K based on my contacts and friendship. It was a great disaster. So all happened in a span of 2 months. We were in a high on August 15th. By the time 2 months later happened, we didn't know how to pay the salaries. And I think it was a great learning moment for me. For example, how to cut costs, how to conserve cash, how do you bring resilience in the organization. And some of the people who went through that period in 2000 are still with us in TMI 21 years later. So I always think resilience is the heart of entrepreneurship. We always hear success stories, but success stories are not repeatable. Failure stories are repeatable. So we need to learn more from failures than try to imitate the success. But at the heart of everything is about falling down, but getting up. I think that is the most important part. So entrepreneurs must be willing to risk everything. Because I remember at that time, I sold off all my property, I was almost like a pauper. And I didn't know where the salary is going to come next month. And this company now today is one of the leaders in the world in learning science, where I told you about PMO, This company works with World Bank. We are advisors to World Bank. And I'm very proud that at that time we did not give up. And I can tell you it's exactly like Apollo 13 odds. We had a 1 in 1,000 chance of coming back. Next slide. This is another beautiful movie. It's called Just Mercy. It was this story in our is about 2010. Now we're switching to 2010. This story is about a guy who from Harvard Business School. After passing out in as late as 1989, he goes to the heartland of white supremacy, Alabama, and he discovers the reality on the ground in Alabama, how the blacks are treated, how the police is against them, how the judges are against them, and he creates, and the movie is about a phenomenal fight about this black man goes to white land territory and discover the realities and how he fights. Now, my discovery happened in 2010 about India and Bharat. All of us know about India, but I didn't know anything about Bharat, even though I was traveling, I was very active in the corporate sector. We were working with large companies. At that time, the government of Rajasthan asked me to go to Dausa district in Rajasthan. It's about 100 kilometers from Jaipur. And I was asked to study, go to a village and study. How can we help the villagers, the village youth to become more productive and more importantly, get them jobs? So during the afternoon around 12 o'clock, I was there in the small village. Sarpanch was sitting in a charpai and having tea, and I went to him and we had a chat, and I told him, sir, I firmly believe that your children should be graduates. And if they become graduates, there are a lot of opportunities to get a job in the corporate sector. I can help them. There are a lot of jobs in the government sector. Then he called two guys were hanging around that area. So he called both of them. He said, this is Gangaram and his elder brother. And both of them are graduates. Gangaram is a BA in political science, in history, political science in Hindi medium. And his brother is an MA in political science in Hindi medium. And he said, please try and get them jobs. I was very surprised that somebody like a BSc, MSc was sitting in the village. And I told him, why did you ask the children to study political history, political science? You can only join politics because there's no value for political science other than in academics to some extent and in IAS and civil service or in government. Then he told me something which completely bombed me. He said, from our village, sir, the first bus goes and reaches Jaipur at 11 o'clock. And the last bus leaves around 3 o'clock to our village. Between 11 and 3, our children can only get admission in BA in political history in Hindi medium. Political history. That is the only course available to our children. At the first time, I got a shock saying how bus timings determine children's future. Then I asked him these boys the two questions. What are your family members doing? They said, sir, many of our family members are in the village. They go to the fields. Koi kheti badi kar raha hai, koi mazduri kar raha hai. Then I asked him, why are you not doing any of this? He said, sir, हम लोग graduate हैं, हम मजदूरी नहीं करते अभी, हम खेती बाड़ी नहीं करते, फिर आप क्या कर रहे हैं? I'm waiting for a government job. That's the second hit of my life. I said many times we believe we make children graduates because they become more sensible. But what we have created in a country is a large number of graduates who have become unemployable. They have not picked up many skills, but their aspirations are getting the best jobs in the country. So this is what we created, a very large pool. Many of you may not be aware. We have about 3 million to 4 million graduates pass out in this country. Bulk of them are BA, and many of them are in smaller towns. So this story really hit me so hard. Then we tied up with NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation, and we started TMI E2E Academy. That's the third company I started. It's called TMI E2E. E2E stands for Education to Employment. We took on a task that we will train and provide jobs to 1 million graduates. And today we are about 500,000. We still have some way to go because of the COVID and all that. But today we are one of the largest players in digital learning in the country. On a single day, we train somewhere around 80 batches of students across the country simultaneously using virtual medium. And we have trained more than 1 million Anganwadi workers using a mobile phone system. So TMI E2E is my devotion or dedication to spend the rest of my life I was around 2010 or about 50. I said, rest of my life, I want to work in this most complex problem of how to make youth more aware of the ground realities of the job, how to make them employable, and how to get them jobs in a sustainable way. A wise man once said, every society is judged only by the way we treat the less fortunate. And I think this is very true. So I think one message embedded in this part of the story is we must have a social conscience. We must have a social relevance in whatever we do. And I believe TMI Group, in where we stand today, I can say proudly that the amount of work we've done for impacting 1 million lives, which is our motto. Impacting 1 million lives is our motto. And we are now going slowly towards impacting at least 1 million lives every year, maybe 4 years from now. Next slide. This is the story of 2022. And now this movie is called Age of Adeline. This is about a young girl, 29 years old. And this Adeline Baumann has mysteriously remained 29 for 80 years. I mean, this is a very interesting story about what are the consequences of remaining young and what are how the world changes around you, but you stay young. My story of 2022 is two things. One, the H startup. I said I'm starting up the H startup now. In between, about the 3 companies, I started a few things which failed. Some of them succeeded. But the point is, at the age, I'm 64 years now. I am in the process of doing the H startup. I'm as excited as my youngest member of my team, who's 22. I believe that the secret to stop aging is to create startups. So this is my H startup. I hope that I want to hang up my boots at some point of time after giving this startup. We believe what we are working on is the learning area. It's called performance learning. It's also the India's first peer learning model using digital technology and also AI and ML technology. So we hope to launch it in 3 months' time. But I'm as excited as many of you in the room who want to do a startup. And it's kept me very young. And I'm very grateful for that. Next slide. Now we're going to the last story of my story, 2030. I will be probably 72 then. And this story of Marshall is a very amazing story about this gentleman Marshall who works for the Black Society. Basically, NAACP is an organization which works for black rights. And he sent to Connecticut to defend a black guy called Joseph Spell, a chauffeur who has been accused of raping and killing a white employer. It's an amazing story about justice. Somehow, 2-3 years in 2022, I decided a few years ago that my next career, I need to do something different. I can't continue the same thing what I did at the age of 65. So I enrolled to a law course, LLB. It is a full-time course. Along with my work, I managed it. I finished the course this year. And I hope to enroll in a bar very soon. And 2 years from now, I hope to exit my corporate job and start a law firm, which will primarily work pro bono work for the poor, and especially people who are voiceless. So I think my philosophy when it comes to the future, today is the first day of the rest of your life. And you can live only once. So there's no point in ruminating about failures and successes. You have to live it up every day of your life as if it is the last day of your life. This is my philosophy. So my law is my second career. I hope to be in the Supreme Court by 2030 as a lawyer. I am very impressed with one gentleman called Ram Jethmalani, who used to practice in the Supreme Court at 93 years old. And law is one profession you can be relevant to society even at 90, because you can take up causes, you can take up issues to the Supreme Court. So I hope to do that when I reach that 2030. Next slide. So I summarized 3 important lessons for many of you. Because each of the story had an embedded lesson, which I talked about. First lesson, never ever give up. Whatever you do, you will fall down, but getting up is a must. It's not an option. Getting up is not an option. You got to fight. I told you a story about quitting when we talked about 1,000 days commitment. I told you about selling off my property. I've been bankrupt at least 3 or 4 times in my life. But at no point of time, I thought there was something wrong with me. Failure is a reality of business, but never take it personally. If I take failure personally, I'll collapse. So I believe failure is a reality. Failure in the game theory is one of the outcomes, and you got to play, right? Yesterday, somebody was telling me about Mr. Agarwal, who runs the Vedanta group, and they asked him, "What's your secret of your success throughout your life? You've been going through difficult times with various governments, and you've built up a metal business." He said, "Dribbling." And I was impressed with that word. In basketball, if you play basketball, he said, dribbling is simple. When a ball comes to you, you dribble. That's it. Life as an entrepreneur is all about dribbling every day in the morning, get back and dribble. Second, think capital. Many of us in our generation did not have the option of getting capital. Today, capital is flowing from everywhere. But when you take capital, you must have an exit plan. Because capital without an exit plan, your life will be very miserable. Your investors will come after you. They'll take away the peace of mind. So you need to plan an exit right from the time you start, which I told you about partnership earlier. Along with money comes a lot of responsibility. Along with money comes a high expectations of performance. These two you need when you start your entrepreneurship. You should not settle down for low ambition. You should look for high ambition, but you need also systems and processes which comes in when third party invests in you. If you put your own money, your friends' money, you're not as accountable as you are when you could take third party capital. So I would, if I were to start TMI, first thing I'll go raise capital of $5 million. And for my each startup, I'm already working on getting a large capital so that we don't run out of money. If money runs out, you have the time you're chasing how to pay the next salary. I don't want to do that. I lost 9 years of my life in K&K because you're trying to pay the next month's salary. Third, think global. The biggest mistake I did in my life is to think of positioning my business in India. Now we are very slowly expanding globally. We are in Japan, we are in Germany. I wish I had done that 30 years ago. If you look at the history and success of IT industry, they were the most unique combination. Get revenue in dollars, spend in rupees. Brilliant concept, because every time rupee loses value, they celebrate. But many of us in India, we cry because our petrol prices go up. We cry. So I think we need to think global. But global also means one big advantage. The biggest advantage is the capital is available to go global, but along with this, you need to acquire global processes. You cannot be outdated. You have to be contemporary. The global customers push you very strongly towards being state of the art. And that's a big advantage. Many Indian companies are lagging compared to their international counterparts. But when you become a global company, when you start looking at global customers as early as possible in the business, your mindset is very different. So this is my last slide. I'm going to stop here. And next slide, please. And I think we'll have Q&A sessions. I've got a list of questions already sent to me. If somebody wants to read it, I can answer them one by one. Or if anybody wants to change the sequence, I hope I'm handing it back to you, handing myself back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
This is one of the most admirable speeches we have ever listened to. We are privileged to have an opportunity to listen to you this evening. We all have dreams, but in order to make those dreams come into reality, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. On behalf of everyone attending here, I thank you, sir, for your guidance. I am sure many of our students have many questions to ask you. So now I invite Vishwada to take over the question and answer session.
Thank you, Meghna. Good evening, sir. I'm Vishwada Hazari, a core member of E-Summit'. It's such a bliss to have you this evening, sir. It was such an honor to have such notable and inspiring words from you, sir. So from past few days, we have gathered a bunch of questions from the participants. It would be great, sir, if you could address those questions, and then we can take questions from the live audience. So let us now proceed to the questions. The very first question, sir. MSMEs are the backbone of any economy, but 99% of them are micro. What is the important thing you think they are lacking to scale up?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful question. I was in the national board of MSME, And in fact, the good example to compare Indian micro companies and also is with Germany. Germany is one of the most successful companies in the world on MSME sector. So you go back and ask, why are companies not scaling up? There are many, many reasons. People say technology, people say money is not available. In my mind, there are only 2 or 3 main reasons. The single most reason is the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur, when he starts his business, he is the person who gives birth to the child. It's like a mother who gives birth to the child. But what happens is, very soon, the child outgrows the mother. The organization which the micro entrepreneur started starts growing and sometimes outgrows the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur does not want to recognize. He wants to run the business the way he wants to run, which is outdated. So I say normally, same thing will happen to you, many of you in the audience. You'll quickly realize 5 years down the road, you have to be extremely conscious of how to stay contemporary yourself as an entrepreneur. So I would say number one reason why they don't scale up, because the entrepreneur is outdated and he's not catching up. The company is growing faster than the entrepreneur, and he's the liability. What he was an asset when he started, it becomes a liability. The second reason is the micro entrepreneurship always need to scale up to get into scale. Because if you don't have scale, you cannot be profitable. If you cannot profitable, you can't pay good salaries. If you don't pay good salaries, you will not have talent working for you. The single most reason between a micro entrepreneurship and a large company is that large companies can acquire, afford, and retain talent. Micro entrepreneurship cannot. So to scale up, I think this is the biggest question of all time. I believe government has to do many things. Government has to create an environment. They should support them with some equity finance. They should support them with some kind of debt finance. For example, in Germany, the largest funding in micro and small sector comes from the German banks, whereas Indian banks are not very comfortable. So we need to create more funding. But most important thing, the entrepreneur has to change. And that's a 90% problem in my mind.
That was really great perspective, sir. And great to know, sir. Let us move on to the next question. There have been many programs like Skill India for development, but what do you think is the best way for democratizing skill development in our country?
Yeah, so this is also an extremely good question because I've been in the skill industry for last 10, 11, 12 years in PMI to E. See, I think what the government has missed the entire game on skilling is not to understand the demand side is more important than understanding the supply side. Supply side of skill is people, right? Youth want something. They create a lot of programs. Thousands of programs were created. Courses were created by NSDC. They created a lot of assessment models. But they never asked a simple question, where is the demand for these people? So the demand comes from two options. Option one, employer must feel value in the skilled youth. That's the first problem. Second problem, which is even more important, you should be able to pay them a sustainable wage. Today in this country, wage for skilled people are extremely poor. And if you combine it with the fact that they have to migrate to get a job, many of them go out of pocket as soon as they migrate for a job. I'm not talking about IIT students. I'm here talking about people who are doing diploma holders, people who are doing skill courses after class 10 and class 12. So I think we need to recognize migration is a reality. Two, government has to intervene, increase the minimum wages so that people can live. Today, there is no demand for skills from the youth. We struggle to mobilize people. Government does a lot of things to mobilize. Why? Because salaries are not adequate. And the demand side, the employer doesn't see a value to pay that higher salary because productivity is not linked to the training. So in other words, if you change that paradigm to an employer-driven model, you pay the money to the employer to train them, they will figure out the best way of training people. Make it an employer-driven model and try and revise the minimum wages to an acceptable level so that our youth can go and migrate, earn salary and save some money and send home. If the youth do not send money home, parents tell them to come back. And that's what has happened. Most of the skilled youth have gone back after 3 months or 6 months in the job. So that's the real reason what we need to do.
That's really a great piece of advice, sir. Thank you. And sir, how are you managing to be India's largest recruiting service for the past 30 years?
I wouldn't say we are the largest for last so many years, but we were in the top 5, I would say. I think that's a good point. See, it's a very fragmented business. Recruiting is a fragmented business. But what in TMI we told ourselves is that we have to invent every day. In fact, right now we are doing a new program. If you go to our website, you will see something called TMI 2.0. So we are rediscovering ourselves for the next 30 years. So at the core of TMI is innovation. I innovate. I learn every day. My directors learn every day. My top management, everybody has got a huge pressure on them to learn new skills, new technologies, new digital processes, and so on. So I think one of the main reasons or main stories or success stories of leadership comes from emphasizing continuous renovation, continuous innovation, and how do you stay contemporary and technology. One of the things which has given us leadership is also technology. We are a pioneer in learning technology. We are a pioneer in recruiting technology. We can use the technology we use something called robotic process automation. Every step in whatever business we are in, our focus is in using technology. So these are some of the reasons why we have been able to be successful or remain relevant in the last 30 years of our life.
That's wonderful to know it, sir. And sir, do you have any message for the aspiring or upcoming entrepreneurs here?
Yeah, some of them are what I've already said, the top 3 lessons of this. So the first and foremost, and there is a very interesting study published by in US on micro-entrepreneurship. So many of you, if you're lucky, you form into 3 or 4 co-founders together and raise money. The moment you raise a large amount of money, capital, then you're no longer a micro-enterprise. You become a small enterprise. Small enterprise have better chance of survival. So first thing I would suggest is try and work in a team. Don't go alone. Create a group of 4 or 5 people who are co-founders together. Yesterday, I was listening to one of the biggest success stories in Hyderabad, a company called Darwin Box, which started by IIT alumni, and they have become a $1 billion valuation. They have become a unicorn in the last 3 years. And I asked him this story. What's the secret of your success? And he said, 3 of us started this together. And I think the second advice I'll give, one is to raise money as early as possible so that you scale up to a small scale. Second, get a team of 4 or 5 who have not the same skill set, which are different kind of skill set, different kind of personalities, come together and then try and start an enterprise. The third, which is very important, many times you may succeed, may not succeed. I failed in my first enterprise, but you should have the capacity and the audacity to say, I have failed, but I want to move on. So this study, which was done in Columbia Business School, they said that 95% of the micro-entrepreneurship fail in the first business, but succeed in the second business. So just because you fail in the first business, you don't give up. Your second business will be a success. Like my story is, many people have stories of that. Therefore, going back to the fundamental advice, don't ever give up. When you start, not give up means don't give up entrepreneurship. You should be able to give up businesses. Sometimes business may not grow. You are in the wrong business. Give it up and do something else. But you stay an entrepreneur because that's the blood that you have, and you have a fighter.
Sure, sir. Such a great message and guidance for everybody here. Truly motivating. Thank you so much. So now let us take the questions from the live audience now.
Good evening, sir. This is Shri from School of Electrical Sciences, currently working as an assistant professor and also an alumnus of IIT Madras. I have a question regarding current shift of students from, actually country is investing a lot of money on IITs and other students for a particular core branch, and they are shifting to the software. Many are not been, even the placements, if you look at in all the IITs or NITs, mostly into the software domain, not into the hardware domain. And students are also interested in this particular thing, and also into after doing this masters or BTech, they are going into MBA and all, finance sector. Is it not going to affect the core industry of India? Because we are losing people after government investing so much of money on their graduation.
Thank you. I think the good question. I'm a sample in front of you. I did chemical engineering. I'm doing human resources now. Okay. And IIT Madras did a alumni survey. I think they did it, 5-6 years ago, if I remember correctly. And they found a very small percentage, less than 15% of the people were, can you hear me? Audio is coming clear?
Yeah. Yes.
15% of the people were in the core discipline. Many of them are moved on to various MBAs, as you said, or they went on to other disciplines like computer science. Now, that raises a very simple question. What do we teach in IIT? I am very convinced in the undergraduate program, the subjects are not important. What we learn in IIT, if you ask, you've been a student, undergraduate program students will tell you one thing. IIT teaches you to compete. That's it. It teaches you to learn continuously. It teaches you not to get daunted when problems come in front of you. Gives you the self-confidence that I can crack anything. And it gives you a very strong analytical mind. In fact, if you'll be surprised to know that once you go to MBA school, your branch doesn't matter. We only look at people which IIT came from, or the MBA school, we look at only which the branch doesn't matter in life because you want something else. So today, my biggest question to you, IIT should be preparing more entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs need not have technical knowledge in the domain where they did undergraduation. You know for a fact that undergraduate knowledge is highly inadequate to bring mastery in that subject. You need to at least do a PhD worldwide. If you talk to anybody in America or Germany, any technical person will be a PhD. But in India, we look at undergraduate question as if they are experts in terms of technology. We are not experts. Undergraduate program does not confer any expertise on anybody. But it opens up your bright mind. What I talked about earlier, it lights up the fire for learning. So my feeling is, even 15% of the people go towards core discipline and 85 people go outside the discipline, as long as they stay in India. Point number one. As long as they create jobs for the core discipline people by becoming managing directors and companies, like I do. I provide jobs to a large number of people. To me, country needs that more than the important whether they stay in the core discipline or not. So I'm sorry, this is my take. I don't know whether you agree with me, but I believe that undergraduate programs are not designed for mastery on the subject.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I do agree with you with the point that the students should stay back in India and be an entrepreneur. I have no doubt. I'm not only talking about the IIT students, but all over, because that is my perspective. But I do agree with your point that IIT should be frontliners to develop the entrepreneurs and make India stronger. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Professor Brahmadev from School of Minerals and Metallurgical Engineering. Continuing this discussion that we just had, I personally feel that in addition to what you're saying, that entrepreneurship, the connect between industry and academia is not so strong in our country. If you look at institutions abroad, they have direct connections with industry, and they are doing projects for industry. And therefore, they are also able to guide their students to go to industry and do new work. I think this, whether it is IITs or any other engineering college in India, the connection between academics and industry is very poor. That's why perhaps this state has come. Our industries are in a very poor state of technological development. There are very few people to help them. They don't come asking for help. They just want to make little money and survive. What do you think about it, sir?
Yeah, I think it's also a very, very, very important topic that you raised about industry, academia, collaboration. I've been in the forefront of that for a long time. I am at the board. I'm in the board of Rajasthan University, Open University, so I can see the ground realities of industry participation. But I want to take you to America. One of the things you'll realize in America was the universities went to smaller towns. If you see the spread of universities in America, the top universities, some of them are on the East Coast, some of them on the West Coast. But across US, universities went first, industry followed them. Second, universities became research centers. They were not teaching centers. The problem in India, and I'm saying this with a lot of responsibility, till 20 years ago, IITs were more of teaching centers. They were not research centers. The undergraduates were more than the postgraduates. Professor Anant, who was a director of our institute, used to say, IIT should not be doing undergraduate programs. We should be doing MTech and PhD programs. Right now, I can see a lot of change the way the weightage has been given to MTech and PhD programs. Students do a 5-year integrated program, which is again very good. We are, in fact, IIT Madras, our batch of alumni, have started a program in IIT Madras called YRF. YRF basically tries to inculcate a research mindset among third-year students in undergraduate program and third-year students. So we are already mentoring, we are working with a budget, we are giving them stipend, and we encourage them to do live projects on their own domain where they are interested in. This is entirely an industry contribution. All of us have put money from our table, wherever companies we are, they raised collaboration from industry. So to me, if you want to build industry collaboration, the universities have to become research centers. They cannot be teaching centers. Second, universities should be in the cutting edge of technology. One, the government of India, especially Mr. Modi, I have great respect for what he's doing in terms of giving huge budgets to many of the universities now. In 20, 30 years ago, IIT had a budget of 100 crores. I remember when we passed out, it was 120 or 100 crores. Now the budgets have increased. There's a large amount of funding available from research from various government institutions. I think this is the time IITs, along with RRL, regional research laboratories, we need to combine together and be in the forefront of technology. Then industry will come after you, especially MSME. See, the problem with the MSME sector is, if we go with any live problems, the solution which comes should be affordable for them and they can afford to implement it. So my advice will be, don't chase the industry. Focus on being the best. In IIT Bhubaneswar, for example, you did choose 4 or 5 disciplines where you are the best in the state, at least to begin with, best in the region in the state, in terms of what's the latest happening in material science, whatever domain that you are in. Then industry will come after you. Already is happening. Look at the IIT Madras, some of the IITs, they're getting a lot of research projects now, both from the private sector. Earlier, only government used to do a lot of funding for research projects. Now, private sector is going. So I think collaboration will come. Already, some of us are conscious. Alumni is doing a lot of work. We as alumni want to bring in more and more industry collaboration. I work with a lot of universities and going to the campuses and talking to them. But my request is, don't look at the industry to help you. First, help yourself. Be the best in what you do in 1 or 2 disciplines, if you whatever areas you want to pick and choose, and be in the cutting edge of technology. The students will come around you, and more importantly, the entire industry will be behind you. Sorry, just my view.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I agree with your suggestion that, this is a kind of also going to motivate the entrepreneurs to take up new areas in collaboration with industries. I really like that idea to select some domains in which we specialize, and then automatically people will come to help you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I'm Nilma Priya. When you started TMI Group, what kind of problems you faced, and as a new entrepreneur, what are your solutions for those problems?
Yeah, part of the story which I told you is that only, right? What are the problems I faced, right? I told you about partnership, how it broke. I told you about, I financially was broke 3 or 4 times. I became a pauper. So I think the question is, when you start something, it's like a baby. You don't drop the baby because the baby is not growing fast enough, baby is dark in color, baby is because baby doesn't have a good face. You own the baby. So the first rule of any entrepreneurship is, once the baby is born, you hug the baby, hang on to the baby, and give the baby the nourishment and put part of your life into that baby. Many entrepreneurs want to play safe. They want to do half here, half there. That is not going to work. So the TMI's problems, partly what I presented today, are largely based on the fact that I was not a good entrepreneur. If I have to rate myself against many of the entrepreneurs, many of the things I'm telling you, I did not do. Of course, the era was very different. But today, if I go back and restart my entrepreneurship, I will do a lot of things differently. So that's, I think, my answer. Please go back. If you have a recording of the presentation, please go and see. I've listed a lot of problems that we faced, and they're already there. And there's also another presentation I made to IIT Madras I can share with you, which talks a lot longer about this entrepreneurial journey than this. I can share with you a link with your team later.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us, sir. It's been such a privilege to talk to you and receive guidance from you. And I'm sure audience enjoyed it and gained a lot of learning experience. And now we are at the end of the talk session. I request Meghna to take up on further proceedings.
Thank you, Vishwada. Thank you, sir, for patiently answering all the questions. Now, I request our respected Dean, Research and Development, Professor Sujit Roy, to address the gathering. Yes, sir.
And all of you just hard TED talk from I'm a fan of this. And
So, you're not audible. Your audio is not clear to me. Your audio is not clear, Dr. Roy. It is very disturbed. Your audio is not coming clearly.
Hello, sir. Sir, your voice is not coming. I'll put it in speaker mode. You can talk in the phone, sir. Okay. No. You can go on, sir.
No issue. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So all of you will agree with me that Mr. Muralidharan's talk was just like a TEDx talk, and it's really hard about the core basics of how an entrepreneur is born. Okay? And E-Summit is one forum where every year we bring distinguished speakers to talk to our students and give them the piece of show them the pathway to walk through this journey which we call as entrepreneurship. As rightly pointed out by Mr. Muralidharan, 30 years back, we were only job seekers. Even in IIT, we used to pass out and then think about jobs. But today, the scenario has already changed. And every young mind wants to be an entrepreneur because that gives them more usefulness than being bonded to a particular job, that means a salary job. I am sure that this E-Summit has been very successful this year also, in spite of being in a hybrid mode. I heard that more than 3,000 2,500 students participants have joined at this program, and it was funded by several sponsors. I also looking at the first event, that is crypto currency, was a very successful event. IPL auction was a successful event. And we continue to give guidance to our students to this area which is called entrepreneurship. I also particularly like to say that all our students should concentrate on learning in general, not in specific. Okay, that is very, very important. And innovation is obviously the key word. We have small ideas which you think is innovative. That will be the one that will lead you to a path or a journey in life. A journey in life is more important than an immediate success in whatever you do. So if you are able to take the journey of life with strong mind and dedication, that you will be able to handle failure with conviction, then the purpose of the IIT education is really successful. I once again thank all of you, and particularly the organizers, as well as Dr. Madhusmita, Dr. Duduru, for conducting this 3-day session, and all the students, volunteers, and lead ones who have been able to make this E-Summit as a success. And thanks once again to Mr. Muralidharan for this wonderful lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for such a nice address to the gathering. Now, I request Professor Brahmadio, distinguished alumnus, MGM Chairperson IIT Bhubaneswar, to felicitate the chief guest by presenting a memento. Thank you, sir. Now I invite the chairperson of E-Summit, Dr. Madhusmita Das, to conclude the 8th edition of E-Summit with closing remarks.
Thank you, Meghna. Respected President of the closing ceremony, Professor Sujit Roy, Dean Research and Development, IIT Bhubaneswar, esteemed Chief Guest of the evening, Shri T. Muralidharan ji, Chairman, FICCI Telangana, and Founder Chairman, TMI Group, Professor Brahmadev, distinguished alumnus, MGM Chairperson, IIT Bhubaneswar, President Student Gymkhana, Dr. Srinivas Karanki, my colleague, Dr. Raja Kumar Goduru, Vice Chairman E-Summit, Chief Coordinator of E-Summit, Sai Avinav, faculty members, staff members, participants, and the entire team of E-Summit 2022. A very warm good evening to all of you. Our precious time flies like an arrow, and we are getting to the closing time of 8th edition of E-Summit. It is very hard to close the door on a series of lively events and bid farewell to friends and associates. However, it is also a privilege and an honor to be entrusted with such an undertaking at a gathering of such eminent people. There were talks from prominent personalities, including Sri Sandeep Ranjan Das, Sri Aditya Singh, Sri Atulya Ji, Sri Karthik Balasubramaniam, and of course, esteemed Shri T. Muralidharan ji, and many others. Various competitions like IPL auction and Innovation Expo were organized and run without any hurdles. This year, we debuted two new events called BitBank and Marketers. And these two events witnessed significant participations outside IIT Bhubaneswar. Our summit altogether witnessed a combined participation of over 2,500 students, out of which nearly 80% are from other institutes. So let's give a big round of applause to all the participants. Driven by the inspirational leadership of Professor R.V. Rajkumar sir, Honorable Director, IIT Bhubaneswar, dear ladies and gentlemen, we were able to conduct the summit in a hybrid mode and make it a spectacular success with sheer enthusiasm and purpose. My sincere gratitude goes out to our chief guest, Honorable Shri T. Muralidharan ji, for accepting our invitation, gracing the event as chief guest, and addressing the student. The interaction, which I would define as parables of wisdom, enlightenment, and guidance. Thank you so much, sir. My sincere gratitude also goes out to the offices of the director, deans, the registrar, the entire team of CITSC for being a pillar of relentless support, encouragement, and blessings all through. My special thanks goes out to Sri Ankit ji, Assistant Register, Stores and Purchase, and his entire team for supporting us in organizing this event. They are the edifice on which our proud institution IIT Bhubaneswar rests. Please join together. Let's give them a big round of applause. I want to thank all the sponsors for believing in us, media team for covering our program, and all the attendees for their wholehearted participation. Lastly, my special thanks goes out to my entire team of E-Summit. Starts with my colleague, Dr. Rajakumar Guduru, Avinav, Nasir, Sujit, Pavan, Nitish, Prasanti, Yadidya, Krishna, Banraj, Meghna, Biswada, Bhargav, Janvi, I can go on naming, and all the third year, second year, and first year team members. The event wouldn't have been possible without this coordinated effort. Please put your hand together and let's give them also a big round of applause. Reminded of a few lines, I would like to recite in Hindi with your permission, dear ladies and gentlemen. जो सफर इख्तियार करते हैं वही मंजिलों को पार करते हैं, जो सफर इख्तियार करते हैं वही मंजिलों को पार करते हैं, बस एक बार कदम आगे बढ़ाने का हौसला तो रखिए, ऐसे मुसाफिरों का रास्ते भी इंतजार करते हैं. It was wonderful being the chairperson of such fantastic event. I bid you goodbye till our paths cross again. Thank you, namaskar, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am, for your concluding words. Now, I invite the Chief Coordinator of E-Summit 2022, Shivasai Abhinav Chekka, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Our respected Dean Research and Development Professor Sujit Roy, Honorable Chief Guest of the Day, Shri T. Muralidharan Sir, Chairperson of E-Summit, Dr. Madhusmita Das Ma'am, and the Vice Chairperson of E-Summit, Dr. Rajkumar Guduru Sir, President Students Gymkhana, Dr. Srinivas Karanki, and Vice President Students Gymkhana, Swapnil More. It gives me immense pleasure to give this vote of thanks on behalf of the whole team of E-Summit 22. First of all, I would like to thank our esteemed Chief Guest, Shri T. Muralidharan ji, for honoring us with his presence and enlightening us with his inspiring words. After 3 days of guest talks, competitions, workshops, and more, we come to an end of the 8th edition of E-Summit. On behalf of the whole team of E-Summit'22, I'm excited to announce that we were able to conduct the summit in a hybrid form, and it was a spectacular success. The theme of E-Summit this year is embracing innovation and reshaping the future. Innovation involves a new way of thinking, thereby helping students develop their creativity and problem-solving skills. I also would like to thank our director, Professor R.V. Rajakumar sir, for his support and constant guidance. I would like to thank the whole administration of IIT Bhubaneswar for supporting us in organizing this event. A huge thanks to President Student Gymkhana Dr. Srinivas Karanki sir and Vice Presidents Student Gymkhana Swapnil More, Professor in charge of CITSC Animesh Mandal sir and the whole team of CITSC Engineering section, the housekeeping staff and everybody who contributed to the success of this event. I also thank all the participants who took part. I thank all of them from the bottom of my heart, and above all, I would like to thank the entire team of E-Summit for supporting me and helping make everything happen. It wouldn't be possible without everybody of them. It was wonderful being the chief coordinator for such an event. Our main goal was to spread the spirit of entrepreneurship to as many people as possible, and I hope we were able to achieve that through E-Summit'22. Hope you all had a great time and at the same time learned something useful. We are very pleased to have everyone in the summit, and a huge thanks to Professor Rajakumar sir, administration, and the entire team of E-Summit again for making this E-Summit memorable in my life. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be the chief coordinator of E-Summit'22, and thank you all.
Thank you, Abhinav. We are extending our sincere thanks to Shri Muralidharan, the Honorable Chief Guest of today's program. With this, we are looking forward to a bright future and to the upcoming E-Summit 2023. We conclude this evening by thanking everyone. Refreshments will be provided outside. Please collect them. Thank you, everyone.